Hi, I'm Coco.
And I'm Emily.
And we're with the Santa Barbara Middle School Team Press, here with
Joshua Oppenheimer.
And Morgan Neville.
It's nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
So, I haven't seen the act of killing, but I've heard people say the violence is real and difficult. Knowing the story and watching people experience it, do you think you made it violence and real enough?
Well, I think, in fact, what's painful about the act of killing isn't really the graphic violence or the sort of realism of the violence. People sometimes tell me, oh, the film, I hear it has this really graphic, horrible violence. In fact, it doesn't. It's really emotionally impactful rather than viscerally or graphically impactful. Similarly, people say, oh, I hear there's victims playing victims, real victims of atrocities playing victims in reenactments of those atrocities. That's also not true. All of the people playing victims are either the perpetrators or their immediate family members. I think that what's painful about the film is that it excavates layer by layer, I hope, how an unresolved trauma has been used by a regime built by killers to keep everybody afraid. And of course, in doing that, real trauma comes up and real pain comes up. And that's why the film is emotionally impactful.
In your business, who is equivalent to the woman you show in 20 Feet From Stardom?
In my business, in the documentary business, I think all of us are backup singers in some way. Journalists, which is a lot of what documentary filmmaking is about, but people who are working to tell other people's stories and who aren't necessarily in it for the glamour of it, certainly, but it's the work is its own reward, and I think that's a lesson that I've taken from the backup singers, and I think it's a good lesson for all of us that take pride in our own work and are happy with that, and that's good enough.
Once the lights go up and we leave the theater, what do you hope audiences will do with what they witness in your film?
Well, I hope that they'll first of all look at themselves and think about the many ways that we are all closer to perpetrators than we like to think. And then I hope they'll dig deeper maybe and look at how the United States was involved with supporting and aiding and directly facilitating the genocide in Indonesia and in many other countries. The film asks viewers to approach perpetrators of atrocities through me, through my closeness to them. And I hope that in that moment, there'll be a moment somewhere in there of empathy. And it can be an uncomfortable moment where the viewer's asking, maybe I shouldn't really empathize with this person, but will. And I hope that in that moment where you empathize with someone who's done truly monstrous things, the whole moral paradigm where we divide the world up into good guys and bad guys somehow collapses. And we start to ask questions about who are we and what does it mean to be a human being in the most fundamental and most important ways.
So you're going to the second question?
Yes. Good. Okay. How did you go from a backup assistant to the lead director's chair?
For me, it was just about, it's all about finding your voice. As a filmmaker, as an artist, as a writer, as anything you do, I think it's about that journey to figure out what it is you want to say and who you want to be as an artist or as a writer. And for me, I was lucky enough to figure that out early on, that what I wanted to do was to tell stories. I started as a writer, then I became a filmmaker, and I actually grew up here in Santa Barbara. And I started my first newspaper when I was here in grade school, and I made my first movies on Super 8 film, which you probably don't even know what that is, here in Santa Barbara in the 1970s.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Yeah.
Good luck.